Hello learners, welcome to Hope Channel Kenya. This is your favorite program, Knowledge Quest. As usual, today we are doing mathematics, and the topic for today is commercial arithmetic. This is your teacher, Mr. Aguk, and I would be taking us through this topic of commercial arithmetic. Commercial arithmetic is always divided into two segments. We have commercial arithmetic 1 as well as commercial arithmetic 2. So commercial arithmetic 1 is done in Form 1, while commercial arithmetic 2 is done in Form 3. So we will be going through the whole commercial arithmetics, that is the contents for Form 1 as well as the contents for Form 3. So by just having an introduction to what it is, so let's have commercial arithmetics. Let's have commercial arithmetics. And I want us to go into what is expected of us. What is expected of us in this particular topic. By the end of this particular topic, we are supposed to have done or have understood currency exchange. We need to know how we exchange our currency, that is the local currency, against the international currencies. We will understand in the banks we have the concept of buying and the concept of selling currencies. We'll be looking at the concept of profit and loss. So we look at, we know there is a concept of trade, and in trade there is buying and there is selling. So in the process of buying or in the process of selling, we will either make a loss or we will make a profit. We all know that the aim of business is always to make profit, but at times we also make losses. Then after that, we will also look into commissions and discounts. We'll be looking at commissions as well as the discounts. We will understand the key concepts of commissions. How is commission levied or how is commission earned? Then discounts, different types of discounts, as well as how can we calculate the selling price of an item after a discount has been allowed. Then after that, actually, this is the major part of commercial arithmetic 1, that is currency exchange, profit and loss, as well as commissions and discounts. Then we now move to commercial arithmetics 2, where we'll be discussing on the simple interest. We'll be discussing the concepts of compound interest, appreciation as well as depreciation, hire purchase, and lastly, the concept of income tax. So I want us to begin in that particular order, and I want us to begin with the first concept of currency exchange. So currency exchange. So I want us to begin with currency exchange. As I had mentioned previously, in currency exchange, we are just going to learn on how the local currency, that is Kenya shillings, is being exchanged. For example, a foreigner arrives in Kenya with a foreign currency. We want to know how much that one is equivalent into Kenya shillings. Or a Kenyan wants to travel abroad, maybe for example in the European countries. And you know, European countries, they use euros. Yeah, so you have Kenyan shillings. Because you cannot trade with Kenya shillings immediately you land in a European country, now you'll have to convert them into euros. So we're going to look at how is the equivalent of the amount you have in euros. So those are the things we are going to discuss under currency exchange. So what are we supposed to note when we are dealing with the problems of currency exchange? One, Kenyan banks, and this is a very important point, Kenyan banks buys, Kenyan bank buys and sells, they buys and sells foreign currencies. They buy and sell foreign currencies. What do you understand by that? We are saying that they buy and do what? And sell foreign currency. The Kenyan banks buys and sell foreign currency. They don't buy, neither do they sell Kenya shillings. In other words, when you go with the Kenya shilling to the bank will not buy, neither the bank will not sell for you the Kenyan shillings. Instead, the bank will buy or sell the foreign what? Currency. This means that if you go to the bank with a foreign currency, what does that mean? So if you go to the bank, let me just write it the way it's pronounced. If you go to the bank, if you go to the bank with a foreign currency, if you go to the bank with a foreign currency, if you go to the bank, like now I go to Equity Bank with the dollars. So what will Equity Bank do? The bank will buy the foreign currency. The bank will buy the foreign what? Currency. Meaning that if you go to the bank with the foreign currency and you want Kenya shillings in that context, you want the Kenya shillings and you have gone to the bank with dollars. So what will the bank do? The bank will buy. So if you go to the bank with a foreign currency, the bank will buy. Meaning that your friend from America came and gave you some dollars. Now you want some shillings. So you take the Kenya shillings, you go to the bank. The bank column always have something like this one. Anytime you go to the bank column or the bank, you will find buying and selling. So buy and sell. So if you go to the foreign currency, you have the foreign currency and you are going to the bank, you want the Kenya shillings, we are going to use the column of what? The column of buying. What about if you go to the bank, if you go to the bank with Kenya shillings, and you want a foreign currency, So what will the bank do? The bank, in this case, will sell. The bank will sell the foreign currency to you. Now, in this case, you want to convert maybe your Kenya shillings to Japanese yen. Yeah, so you want to ask yourself, how many yens will I do what? Will I have? So you go to the bank. In that scenario, you are going to use the column of what? The column of selling. Are we together? Yeah, that is basically what we do with the currency exchange. So there's nothing much on this concept that you're supposed to be knowing. The only thing is that you need to know when are we supposed to buy, as well as when are we supposed to do what? To sell. So that you can know when to use the column of buying and when to use the column of what? Selling. So once you know that, we are good to go. We say, if you go to the bank with a foreign currency, the bank will buy. So if anybody lands with the bank, the Kenyan bank, and that person is having a foreign currency, it means that the bank will do what? The bank will buy from that person. And if you want a foreign currency, maybe you go to the bank and you have the shillings. You have the shillings, you want a foreign currency. In that case, the bank will sell for you that foreign what? Currency. That is when we use the column of selling and when we use the column of what? Buying in the bank. So the only point you need to know, that the Kenyan bank will always buy and also do what? Sell. What? Foreign currency. So that's how the best way you can know it. So that when you want the foreign currency, the bank will sell for you. If you have the foreign currency, the bank will buy from you. That is good. So let's look at the illustration to explain this. Let's look into an explanation. So example 1. An Italian tourist, let me just have this, be having a solution here. An Italian tourist, on arrival in Kenya, converted 6,000 euros into Kenya shillings. So an Italian tourist on arrival in Kenya converted 6,000 euros into Kenya shillings. So as you can see, in this scenario, we are having a tourist. A tourist is arriving in Kenya, and this tourist is having euros, that is 6,000 euros. And he goes to the bank with these 6,000 euros. So what did it, how did the bank do? You can see we have the euro and also we have the dollars. So the euro is buying at 112.32 and the euro is selling at 112.83. So what will we do in that case? We're going to look into that. During her 3-day stay in the country, she spent 260,000, full stop. She converted the remaining amount into US dollars. She converted the remaining amount into US dollars. So using the exchange rates below, calculate how many US dollars she got. So we begin step by step. Remember what I said, in mathematics, whenever you want to solve a problem, best problem solvers always ensure that they tackle a point after a point. Yes, a point after a point. So let's read the question and understand it point by point. So an Italian tourist on arrival in Kenya converted 6,000 euros into Kenya shillings. So that's the first thing we have. So 6,000 euros. So we have 6,000 euros. That is supposed to be converted to Kenya shillings. So we need to convert 6,000 euros. So remember our previous point. We say that when you have a foreign currency, you go to the bank with a foreign currency. What will the bank do? The bank will buy. If you go with a foreign currency to the bank will buy. So we go to the column of buying. So euro. So 1 euro is going for 112.32. So we say that if 1 euro is going for 100, or Kenya shillings, is going for Kenya shillings 112.32. So that is the currency exchange. So in that case, the bank will buy because we are going to the bank with a foreign currency. So the bank will buy. The bank will buy all these euros. So if 1 euro is going for 112.32 Kenya shillings, therefore, what about 6,000 euros? So it's just a matter of multiplication. This one will give us how many Kenya shillings? We say 6,000 times 112.32, everything divided by 1. So how much Kenya shillings was 600,000 euros or 6,000 euros equals to? So let's have our calculators. We say 6,000 times 112.32. 112.32. This one will give us 673,920,000 shillings. So it means that the 6,000 euros that were converted into Kenya shillings, these Italian tourists had a total of how much? 673,920. So that is the amount that the tourist was having in terms of Kenya shillings. I repeat, with a foreign currency into the bank will buy. So we use the column of buying. Step by step, let's go to the second section. During her 3 days stay, the tourist was a lady, so during her 3 days stay in the country, she spent 260,000. So she had 673,920. Then on her 3 day, she had spent 260,000. So how much was he left with? So let's look at the amount remaining. We were told she spent how much? 260,000. So 260,000. So what was he left with? So because alikuwa na 673,920 and spent 260,000. So we look at what is remaining. So this is what she was left with in terms of Kenya shillings. So 673,920 minus 260,000. Minus 260,000. That gives us 413,920. 920. So we had she was left with 413,920. Good. Step by step. She converted the remaining amount into US dollars. She converted the remaining amount into US dollars. So what was she left with? She was left with 413,000. She was left with 413,920. This is what she was left with. Now we are converting this into US dollars. Now look at this. How much are we going to the bank with? So we are going to the bank with Kenya shillings. So what will the bank do? We need now the foreign currency. So the bank definitely will sell. So we had said that if we go to the bank with the Kenya shillings and we want them to give us a foreign currency, the bank will definitely sell. So we are going to use a column of selling. So $1 we have been told is buying at 96.20 and selling at 96.90. So definitely we will use the column of selling because we have the shillings. Now we need the dollars. So we come and ask ourselves, if Kenya shillings, how much? 96.90 is equals to $1 US, is equals to $1 US. Yeah, we are converting the shillings. So we start with the shillings. You know, that is the arrangement. We want to convert these shillings. So we are going to ask ourselves, if the bank is selling 96.090 shillings for $1 US. So Kenya shillings, 96.90 is equals to $1 US. So what about Kenya shillings? What about Kenya shillings? 413,920. So this one will give us how many Kenya shillings? How many Kenya shillings? So you just come and say 413 920, 413. Remember, we do cross multiplication times 1, everything divided by 96.9 what? 0.90. So this one is going to give us how many US dollars? So let's just work it out. So we say 413, 920 times 1, then we divide by 96.90. We divide by 96.90. So this is equivalent to $4,271.6. So the nearest dollars, we can say 0.2, or just write 0.6 US dollars. So the nearest dollars, you can just say she remained with 4,271. So she converted the remaining amount into US dollars. Using the exchange rate below, calculate how many US dollars she got. So definitely she got roughly 4,271.6 US dollars. So that is a first example on how the currency exchange work. So it's always a very easy thing. Somebody asking you to convert one currency to another, the only thing that you're supposed to ask yourself, is, when are we supposed to use buying? When are we supposed to use selling? So we said when you go to the bank with a foreign currency, the bank will buy. If you go to the bank, you want the foreign currency, the bank will do what? Sell. So just analyze your situation, know what do you want at the bank. Do you want the foreign currency? Good, the bank will sell. Do you have the foreign currency? Yes, the bank will buy. Let's look at another illustration to make this thing understood. Example 2. Example 2. So this is example 2. A forex bureau in Kenya buys and sells currencies as shown below. So we have euro and you have dollar. Again, buying and selling. 1 euro is buying at 144.6 and sells at 146.1. 1 US dollar is buying at 132.50 and is selling at 133.40. A businessman from America, now this person is now coming from America. A businessman from America converted 20,730 euros into Kenya shillings. So remember, this businessman is from America. What that English tells us, that businessman is now in Kenya. But he or she came from America. So he is in Kenya with some euros. So he needs to convert these euros into Kenya shillings. So he has the foreign currency. What the bank will do? The bank will definitely buy. So you want to say 1 euro. So we're just going to say 1 euro is equals to Kenya shillings buying 144.60. So 144.60. Because we are saying that when you have the foreign currencies and you go to the bank with the foreign currency, you want the shillings, the bank will buy those foreign currencies from you. So what about 20,000? So what about 20,730 euro? This one will give us how many Kenya shillings? So you simply say this is 144.60 times, let me go the right way. We say 2730 times 144.60, everything divided by what? By 1. Everything divided by 1. That one will give us how many Kenya shillings that businessman got in terms of Kenya shillings. 720, 730 multiplied by 144, 144.60. 20, 730 multiplied by 144.60. So this businessman had a total of 2,997,997 558,000. 558,000. So that is the amount of money that the businessman had in terms of Kenya shillings. This is what he or she was given at the bank. So let's continue. Question A. Calculate the amount of money in Kenya shillings that he received. Actually, he had received 2,997,558 shillings. So this is the amount that he was now able to transact with while he was in Kenya. Now, question B is asking, the businessman spent 2 million. The businessman spent 2,410,000 while in Kenya. So he spent, so let's just get back there. The amount that he spent in terms of Kenya shillings was 2,410,300. This businessman almost went broke. He spent almost a lot of money that he was having. Okay. He then converted the remaining. So let's look at what is remaining because he spent this one. So what was left? So the amount that was remaining is the original amount that he had in terms of Kenya shillings was 2,997,558. That one we subtract what he has spent. So he has spent 2,410,300. So how much will he have? So 2,997,558, we subtract 2,410,300. So how much is that? Okay. So we said what he is left with, we take the original amount, then subtract that. So this will give us Kenya shillings, 587,258. So that is the amount that the tourist was left with in terms of Kenya shillings. So he had 2.9, spent 2.4, now is remaining with 587,000. Good. He then converted the remaining amount. I hope you are seeing how I'm working out this problem. Yeah, you solve it step by step. Yes. He then converted the remaining Kenya shillings into US dollars, meaning that this 587,000 was converted into US dollars. Calculate the amount of money to the nearest US dollars that he received. So to the nearest US dollars, the amount that he received. So we now go to the bank again. We are now going to the bank having Kenya shillings. Now we want to find the what? The dollars, that is the foreign currency. So what will the bank do? Now we want the foreign currency. The bank will sell. So we come here and ask ourselves, $1 US is buying at 132.50 and it's selling at 133.40. So definitely we are going to say, if we are going to use the column of selling, we say if 133 Kenya shillings, 133.40 is $1. Is $1. 133.0 is $1. Why are we saying that? Because now we have the Kenya shillings, but now we are converting them into a foreign currency. So the bank will definitely sell. So from our exchange rates, 133.4 is equals to $1. So what about the amount that the tourist was left with? The tourist was left with shillings 587,258. So this one will give us how many dollars? We just cross multiply and say 587,258 multiplied by what? Multiplied by 1. Then we divide by 133.40. So let's look at that. 587,258 times 1 divided by 133.40. What do we get? We get how many dollars to the nearest dollars? 4402. So 4,402 dollars. Yeah, it is 0.2, but we have been asked to give it to the nearest US dollars. So if you are asked to give your answer to the nearest dollars, you're not supposed to give it in terms of decimals. You round it off to the nearest whole numbers. Yeah, because our answer actually is 4402.23 to 4402.43. So we will not look into that. We just round it off to the nearest whole number. So that is a good one. That is a very good one. So the third example is now your case. Yeah, the third example is now your case. Yeah, this one I would expect you to do. You'll have the question here. Try to work it out. This question of Mr. Kinuthia, who bought a car in US. So try to work it out and see the answers to each and every question here. So as you work it out, let's just take a short break. Then we come back with more and more on commercial arithmetics. Welcome back to our program. Remember, the program is still Knowledge Quest. So we were discussing on the concept of currency exchange, and I gave out an assignment here. So I want you to do all these questions effectively. Hakikisha umepata jibu. Your solutions, you can send them to the number which is indicated below, as well as on our social media platforms, hashtag Knowledge Quest. Good. So I want us to move to the second case of this topic, which is profit and loss. Profit and loss. So as we all know, profit is always obtained. Profit is always obtained when the buying price is lower than the selling price. Actually, if you buy an item at 10 bob, then go and sell it at 12 shillings. It means that your selling price is above the buying price. In such a case, you shall have made a profit. But when the selling price is below the buying price, you buy an item at 10 shillings, then you go sell it at 8 shillings. In such a scenario, you have done what? You have made a loss. So what are some of the key concepts in profit and loss? So first of all, we need to define, or we need to get how to calculate the profit. The profit is equals to the selling price, that is SP, minus the buying price. Yeah, an item always have the buying price, and it always have the selling what? The selling price. So when the selling price is above the buying price, we are making a profit. So sometimes somebody can also ask you to calculate the percentage profit. Percentage profit is given as profit. So you need to calculate the profit. Then all over the buying price. Then you multiply by 100. So percentage profit is given by the profit divided by buying price. Then you multiply by what? By 100. So remember, The profit is the same as selling price minus buying price. So this formula, we can even say it is the selling price minus the buying price, everything divided by the buying price. Then you multiply by what? By 100. Because selling price, when you subtract the buying price, we get what? We get the profit. Yeah, so that's how we do. And in most cases, somebody will give you the percentage profit and they want the profit. How will you get that one? Because somebody may tell you that the percentage profit is 20%. Yeah, so you are given the percentage profit and you want the profit. So what do? You simply say profit in this case will be that percentage profit that you have been given. That percentage profit you have been given. Then you multiply by the buying price so that you can know how much profit you made in terms of Kenya shillings. Because an item can be bought at 100 shillings. Then the retailer sold it, making a profit of 20 shillings. So 20% that is. So you want to know how much profit he made. You just take that 20% times the buying price, the amount that he bought the price with. That one will give us the profit. Then the next one is a loss. The next one is loss. Loss and the profit is the same. The only difference is that the loss is made when the buying price is now higher than the selling price. So we just say buying price now minus the selling price. In other words, when this formula here is negative, you have made a loss. So percentage loss is that loss we have calculated there all over the buying price times what? Times 100. Remember, this formula can also be written as buying price minus selling price all over buying price times 100. Buying price minus selling price all over buying price times 100. Because buying price minus selling price is the what? Is the loss itself. Also, the same case. Somebody can give you, or you can be provided with a percentage loss. So you want to know how much was the buying price. So you simply say percentage loss itself can be obtained by getting the percentage loss, then you multiply by the buying price. So those are some of the key formulae that we use. Those are some of the key formulas that we use when we are calculating the profit and loss. So let's go into a question. Let's look at an example and see how each question can be answered. So we have this. A manufacturer sells goods to a shopkeeper. A manufacturer sells goods to a shopkeeper at a profit of 15%. Good. So he sells the goods at a profit of 15%. The shopkeeper then, the shopkeeper sells them so as to make a profit of 25. The shopkeeper is also maybe selling them to customers at a profit of 25%. Good. During a sale, the shopkeeper reduced his prices by 10%. Find to the nearest shilling the factory price of an article which was marked at 450 shillings during the sale. Good. So that is a very good example. That is a very good example that will help us understand all the key aspects of loss as well as profit. So let me call it example 1, solution. Example 1, the solution. It is always good to be analytical. Analyze the question and understand the question, how it goes. So this is a series of trade. It's a series of trade, beginning from the manufacturer to the shopkeeper to the what? To the customer. So this item has been sold to 3 different people. So the first person here, the manufacturer. Let me just write it. So we have the manufacturer. we have the manufacturer. Manufacturer is selling it to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper is selling it to the customer. So the manufacturer makes a profit of 15%. The shopkeeper also makes a profit of 25%. Makes a profit of 25%. Then we also told that during a sale, the shopkeeper reduced its price by 10%. So the shopkeeper did not sell it at 100. Instead, he reduced it by what? 10%. So reduced by 10%. Then find to the nearest shillings the factory price of an article. So we want to look at the factory price. That is the price, the manufacturing price, which for item which was marked at this one during the sale, meaning that the shopkeeper sold this item at how much? 450. So hapa, the shopkeeper sold the item to the customer, by the way, who reduced it by 10%. The shopkeeper is the one who reduced it, by 10%, and marked it as, the marked price was 400 and what? And 50 shillings. So we are going to work from going downwards, up to up until we get everything. So the marked price, that is 450, was not the 100% selling price of the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper had reduced it by what? 10%. That means that the shopkeeper sold it at 90%. The shopkeeper sold it at 90%. So we just come and say, if 90% was equivalent to 450 shillings, 90% was equivalent to 450 shillings. So what was the original price that the shopkeeper would have sold it? You know, we need the selling price in this case, because the selling price was there, but the shopkeeper had sold this item by reducing it, reducing the percent by what? By reducing the price by 10%, meaning that the shopkeeper did not sell it at his original selling price. So that is for 50. So 90% is equals to 450, because that is what it was marked. So what about 100% in that case? So it will be 100 times 450, so that we can know the original selling price of the shopkeeper divided by 90. So we can work that one out. This one, 90 goes here once, here it goes 5. So that one gives us Kenya shillings 500. So meaning that the selling price of the shopkeeper, so this was the original selling price. The original selling price. So that is what was equivalent to 25%. So meaning that if the shopkeeper had sold this item at 500, he would have made a profit of what? 25%. So what about the buying price? How much did the shopkeeper buy this item as? So we look into 100%, because a profit is an increase of 100%. So we say that buying price of the shopkeeper. Yeah, so I want us to calculate the buying price of the shopkeeper. This 500 is equivalent to as this 25%, which is a profit. So you come and say, if 125%, because profit is always additional of the buying price, which is 100%. So 125% is equivalent to shillings 500. Therefore, what about his buying price, which is always 100%? So the buying price in this case, how much he bought it, is Kenya shillings 100 times 500 divided by 125. So this is the price at which the shopkeeper had bought this particular item from the manufacturer. So let's calculate this. 100 times 500 divided by 125. That gives us 400. That gives us 400. That gives us 400. So 400 is the buying price of the shopkeeper. Remember, the buying price of the shopkeeper is the selling price of the manufacturer. The price at which the manufacturer sold it to the shopkeeper is the price at which the shopkeeper bought it from the manufacturer. And we say that by manufacturer selling this item at 400 to the shopkeeper, he had made a profit of how much? 15%. He had made a profit of 15%. So this 400 is inclusive of the 15% of the manufacturer. So we want to know what was the manufacturing price or the factory price. So let's now get the factory price. So let's go get the factory price. Yeah, so this was a very good question that is giving us an highlight on how we can solve a problem one after the other. So factory price in this case, we say that by selling the item at 400 to the shopkeeper, the manufacturer had made a profit of 15%. So 400 is inclusive of a profit of 15%. So that one means that 115% is equals to 400 shillings. Is equals to 400 shillings. Is equivalent to 400 shillings. So what about the original price, the factory price, which is now treated as 100%? 100%. So 100% in this case will give us how much? So it is 100 times 400 divided by 115. So this is the price. This is the price at which, this is the price at which the shopkeeper, the manufacturer, the factory price, the price at which this good was manufactured. So 400 times 100 divided by 115, that gives us 347.8. 347.80 shillings. So we were told to the nearest shillings. So to the nearest shillings, it means that we will just say Kenya shillings 348. So nearest shillings, meaning that we don't need to give them into form of cents because point something is not shillings now. Those are now cents. So we just round it off to the nearest whole numbers. So to the nearest whole numbers, the factory price of this item was 348 shillings. So remember the chronology of these particular events. We have the manufacturer adding the profit to the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper is adding the profit to sell this item to the customer. And the shopkeeper, in this case, before realizing his profit, he decided to reduce the price because maybe this good was not going. This good was not moving, so he decided to do what? To reduce the price. So meaning that the price that you are given, the marked price, is the price after reduction. So the marked price, the 450, is the price after reduction. The reduction was 10%. So what was remaining? 90%. So this 450 is equivalent to 90%. So get the original price before reduction, that is 100%, which we get 500. So mean that the 500 is the price that the shopkeeper is supposed to have sold this particular item in order to get a profit of 25 shillings. So this 500 is inclusive of 25% profit. So it means 125% is equivalent to shillings what? 500. So what about the original price or the buying price? The buying price is always treated as 100%. So 100% of that will give us 400. So he bought it at 400 from the manufacturer. And the information we have is that the same manufacturer had made a profit by selling that item at what? 400. So mean that this 400 is inclusive of this 15% the manufacturer did what? The manufacturer made as a result of that sale. So 115 is 400. So what about the original price before the profit? So our original price is just 100%. So when we work that one out, we get 348 shillings as the factory price. So we were moving from down here, going back until we get the price. So that is how we solve the problems of profits as well as of loss. So remember, profit is above 100. So any percentage profit, you add 100. If we are talking about the loss now will less that loss by 100. Example 2. Example 2. A camera which is marked at shillings 2,400 is sold to a customer after allowing 10% discount. By doing this, the trader still makes a profit of 20% on the cost of the camera. Determine the cost price of the camera. So this is a good example which is going to lead us into what we are calling discounts. So we will be introducing the concept of discounts and how it is applicable to problems of profit and loss. Otherwise, I hope we have gotten this concept clear. We know how to calculate the profit as well as loss. We know also how to do the currency exchange, and because still learners can still continue and learn, we will stop this, we will end from this particular point and allow us to proceed with other subsequent sections of the commercial arithmetics in our subsequent classes. So I always ask you to keep glued to this particular channel. Always remember to keep tuned on this particular time so that we continue learning and breaking down all these concepts. Otherwise, thank you very much for being with us throughout this particular process. See you in the next class.